Hey everybody, it's a bit of an art supply haul, and I've been trying to get this live stream. I haven't had much cooperation from YouTube, so we'll see. I've got some new Daniel Smith watercolor sticks. I was able to get Moon Glow and Lunar Black and some of the Primatech Serpentine Genuine, Hematite Genuine, Pimentite, and finally got the half pans all situated. And of course, as soon as you get everything to fit in the tin, then you end up with more new paint. Ran down to the art supply store today and found near this art supply store for I don't know how long. And didn't realize that they have a deal where they take 25% off of everything the last Tuesday of the month. So it was my lucky day down there. I found this Royal Langnickel set for $5. And I thought, I liked the size of the tin, and I thought just for the tin alone, that was going to be something that it would work. I had another tin that I had managed to just wedge every little half pan I could in, and it worked for quite a while, but I've outgrown it. So this one had enough room, and then had enough room for these watercolor sticks. So that feels like whatever little paints they have in here. There's a graphite pencil and a couple of brushes, and that was worth $5. So they don't seem anything exciting. The ferrules are, you know, they call this sort of thing student grade. I would say don't buy this stuff for kids. Upgrade it a little bit. If you buy this stuff for kids, you won't really get much out of their efforts. And if you want to turn them into artists, get them some decent quality materials, especially like a nice brush. It just makes all the difference. So I guess we could do a couple of swatches of some of these colors that are ones that there are a couple of things I didn't have. They've got something here called deep green, looks like a hooker's green dark. Violet, I'm really short on violet and purples. And Crimson Red Lake. I don't have anything called Crimson Red Lake, but I'm guessing I probably have a red that's gonna be that. Just completed a new color chart, and I'm really deep in the reds. And part of that is because I inherited a bunch of paints, and then also it's not my color for the projects I've been working on lately, so they kind of accumulate. And red is also one of those colors that a little touch just goes a long way. So I also managed to stock up on a new bunch of good old Micron pens. This time around, I'm gonna mark them. See, I put a little mark on the end of this one right here. Because I have a tendency to just throw them in. I don't like to toss them out until they're completely dried up. And so I get new pens, and they just look like the old pens. I throw them all in the same pencil cup. And then I mean, if you follow my channel, you've seen me do it 17 times. I'll grab a pen and try to go to work, and it's pretty dried up. So I'm just gonna try to outsmart myself and just put a little mark on the end of these. I've got a big old Sharpie chisel tip, and we'll see if we can be a little more organized with with the supplies. I've been just working away, clearing up the old art supply table. Those will take a second to dry. Just slide them out of the way. And somebody had asked me a question about Sharpies, and we'd had a discussion about whether or not Sharpie made, and the person I was talking to said no, ultrafine, which is the smallest one they make. And it's got the metal fine point, and I can't focus on it there. Maybe. The classic Sharpie is this fat body, and they just call that a fine point, but it's got the felt tip marker. And for years, this is kind of what we had, and then they introduced these ultra fine points. Now, you can also find something called a Sharpie pen, and it has that chisel point too. And I think the line is just a little bit finer than the ultra fine point. They also make a pen that's marketed as the S note, and these colors are very translucent. I think they're meant to be highlighters, but I'll use them with rubber stamps. They have a bit of a watercolor quality, and you can get them wet and you can move the ink around a little bit. So, well, let's finish with this. The Sharpie brush, which has a lovely juicy brush tip to it, and it makes a nice brush-like mark. And then the big daddy, the Sharpie chisel tip, and these suckers, they're great on posters and anything you need to get a lot of ink down. A nice big ink well in them too. I scribbled out a little bit of an example with this. There we go. And then I gave it a little squirt of water. You can see the S note is diffused. It runs with the water. The Sharpie pen also runs a little bit, stays put pretty good once it's down. It doesn't dissolve and lift into a pool and spread all over. So I would call it somewhat waterproof. Here's our classic Sharpie. The brush, ultrafine, and the chisel. Those all stay put. Hey, Antics. Good to see you. Welcome everybody there. I see a few people out there in Watcherland. So that's your Sharpie rundown. I also picked up a nice new little palette. What do we have? 3, 6, 10, 20 wells, and then 5 mixing wells. I'm never quite sure. I mean, I think they want us to do this and pretend we're old-fashioned 1800s artists. Nobody does that, and I think they should just stop putting this goofy thing in these. If you ever wondered what the little holes are for, they are so you can hold your brushes. I find most of the brushes I use are too big to be accommodated in those silly holes, but this was another item that was 25% off, so I have been looking for one that would fit on the workstation a little bit better. Kind of the thing I'm really excited about are the watercolor crayons. Actually, they're not crayons, they're watercolor sticks from Daniel Smith. And they look like this. Oh, ahead and get them all out here. They seem to be, maybe the buff titanium will be a little bit easier to visualize. They seem to be paint that's extruded, and it's in this about 3¼ inch length. A half pan. Here's a new commercial one. Is a chunk of this. I'm guessing this might be from the same extruder, and then they're cut into lengths and they're pressed into pans. And Daniel Smith says that the sticks are about, well, it's 4 half pans. So they're the equivalent to about 3 tubes of paint. And I think they're probably referring to the 5 milliliter, the little tubes of paint. So there is a lot of paint in these guys. Adam Carmona, hello, welcome in. Hi, welcome in, Louise. Nice to see you folks in the chat. And there's the same formulation as the paint that goes in the half pans here. There aren't any waxes. You guys know I love the Neo Color too. I love to work with those. This is just paint. So let's grab a square and I'll show you what magic these guys are. I guess we can quickly look. I got to playing with these the other day. I couldn't wait. I've been trying to get online for a minute. I chose a set of granular specks and flecks and that just give it your painting so much that I do. And since we've got a couple new people here, I'll run one of those past the screen so you can see what the Pebble paintings are all about. We put down some colors, let them dry, put down other layers, and then using those Pigma pens that I showed at the beginning, those rock shapes are outlined, and we use the Micron 03, 01, and a bit of watercolor pencil for the highlights and the shadows. So these are blanks that will eventually, yeah, probably by the end of this video, we'll be doing one of these up. And I mean, the colors, I just had so much fun playing with the colors. Aren't those beautiful? I know, Dan K. Hello, welcome in. It's been a really hectic week. I have missed you guys. And it's so nice to see folks out. So I'm glad to be here. I was trying to get a stream started for over an hour. Had a good internet signal, so I don't know why, but YouTube was being a bit of a pickle. 140-pound watercolor paper here. And the Daniel Smith Company has got quite a bit of advertising and materials about these sticks. I think they're really intriguing. I wanted to give them a try. And Daniel Smith describes them as being a pan in the hand, like a pan of watercolor. Well, I just kind of let myself get caught up in other things, and it's really easy to just get out of the groove. So you can dip these in water. You can put a puddle of water on your palette and dip the stick into them. You can just take the brush and go right at them. That's just plain water. And this color is quinacridone burnt scarlet, and, and the tinting power on this is just spectacular. And I mean, it couldn't dissolve more easily. Isn't that kind of like magic? I love stuff that's just kind of fun like that. Rave for the pan. Yeah. So one of the cooler colors, I've been watching this and other people there are a lot of art videos out there, and Moon Glow is one that has just. I think that's gonna make. I would not have expected this from Viridian Blue and Anthraquinoid Red, but it makes a beautiful purple. And when this dries down, it just has these variations of color and this beautiful texture. See what these do when they're. Let's take a look at the soda. Being a gray with a bluish cast, but it's a very, very dark kind of a blue, I guess. You could ground up and turned into paint. I don't know. Again, so when you add quite a bit of water to them, if you just take them and paint a line, they'll stay pretty intact. The pigment will stay kind of where you put it. When you add the water to it, then the pigment moves in the water, and depending on how your paper, my paper, I didn't wet it ahead of time, so it's bowing up and the water is running to the edges. And as your water pools up, it'll take these bits of pigment that clump together. They don't stay well dispersed in the paint. Paints that are give a really smooth wash, those tend to have pigments that disperse evenly throughout the water. Granulating paints have pigments that clump together, and then those little clumps are like little rafts of magical color that float through the water, and when the water evaporates, dries off the paper, gets absorbed into the paper, those little clumps stay where they are, and that's what creates that granulating effect. So if you're trying to get a smooth wash, don't use granulating paint. But if you want something that's got some wonderful texture, that is a lot of fun to play with. So I also have one that is serpentine. And it's just a wonderful yellowy green. Oh, I'm making a little bit of a mess here. You know you're having fun when you've got the paint dripping down your finger. So I am not quite sure about this stick format. I love the price. It's a kind of a new way to get the paint. I might come to love them. Right now I'm kind of wish they were in a half pan. They are a little bit flexible. So you can cut off a segment and push them into a half pan. if you want to work with them that way. And I might do that with these. I might, but I thought I would give the sticks a try and see what that was about. And it strikes me that they're quite portable this way. And if you're a person who travels and you fly, you can't really take tubes because they're considered a liquid. And you're really limited to the amount of liquids you can take with you. With you on an airplane. So they would be good for that. Line, it just stays on the paper. So I can't wait to dissolve and flow. You're left with a mark. So really a different kind of a ground up hematite and sodalite. How the Daniel Smith paints seem to move on the paper. It has to do with the ingredients in the paint, the wetting agents. And this just moves across with the Christmas season sets of these, and I think a young painting with them. Oh, well, let's not limit it to age. I'm not a young artist, and I have a ton of fun with it. So everybody, let's just open that right up. So I played around with these a little bit and felt like it was just running out of paper. This is the Piemontite, and the color name is Piemontite Genuine. Genuine, like serpentine genuine or hematite. That's the mineral. That's been finely ground, added to some binders like gum arabic, and made into paint. So I don't know if Dan K, if you're still out there. We were on Dan K's channel. How the live was, and I know when I first started to see what we're doing here, but that's for some reason seems to have changed. It's not just you, Dan. I'm noticing it too. People will find art if they're looking for art. This and its tinting strength is really strong. So I'm using it kind of as accents at the end. Just letting that splash wherever it wants to go. In case you're wondering what I'm doing with this, it looks a bit of a mess, but we'll let it dry down and then we'll use it as a base for the pebble drawings. So the more random and whimsical it looks, the better the pebble drawing will be. So, Mama Squirrel, if you're still out there, hope you're doing okay. I know you've had some days, the last couple. We all have them, and unfortunately, sometimes we have a bad day, and there's a group. You know, hopefully, every time we have a bad day, there's not 100 people watching, and we're not, wearing blue while it happens. But hey, that's the weird life we are in. Yeah, I hope you're doing better. And like the holidays are just breathing down our neck. You, I saw you were a mod when the thing that happened that we shall not mention happened, and that seems to make it a little bit worse. A bit better. Well, that. Let's take it. I'll take a bit better over a bit worse any day. Yeah, there might have been something in the air. I spent the last couple of nights up with a lot of cardiac pain, so I don't know. I think I think part of it has to do with the time of year. I want to throw exactly. Yep, that's exactly it. And I don't know the details of that because I don't think we've really heard from the person who went on to his next thing. I would kind of like to hear from him to know what the heck was behind all that. Um, Probably not going to get answers from the person who you were posing the questions to because I don't think that's his forte. I'm trying so hard to be diplomatic. You know. Anyway, you can shoot me an email if you ever want to talk about it. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. I'm guessing uh, there were some lessons to be learned, and there were some of us there who had a chance to vicariously learn that lesson. And I know I have become heated as a moderator, and I just like I'll be, on the side of my phone just seething, and I just want to like I want to type those things that I know that in the past I've occasionally typed them, and it usually gets me timed out or blocked. I mean, I know we've all been there. There's a lot of it's a lot of important issues that we're dealing with in who are art people who are watching this. I also am involved in another community, and it's an, a community of activists, and we can sometimes with over there. So a little bit of what I try to do on this art channel is to talk about mindfulness. And, you know, we need mindfulness when we're engaged in activities in life that are emotionally challenging. When people are in anger, am I back? Hopefully I'm back. So what I was saying is that the way our brain works when our hippocampus are aroused, our left prefrontal basically goes offline. And the left prefrontal cortex is the part of your brain that says, whoa, 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 wait a minute, hang on, hang on, hang on. So that part of our brain keeps us from getting ourselves in trouble. And when our emotions are high, that logical part of ourselves, that that bit of our brain that is not even fully formed until we're 26, 27, um, it gets shut off. And so in the modern world, I feel like that's where I get into trouble when I'm not using my... So, yeah. Something that can help us to slow down, and that's to engage in mindfulness. Our nervous system, it lowers our blood pressure, it modulates our heart rate down, our breathing steadies, and it just makes it easier to feel good in your body and to feel like you're a calm, happy human being. So, one of the ways I've been doing that is to take these watercolor backgrounds, and this is a permanent pigment pen, meaning if I got it wet, which I might do, I'll bring in some more media, the pen won't run. Those marks will stay where I put them. And I'm concentrating on where the pen meets the paper. I'm just looking for shapes. I'm looking for these blobs of color, and I'm just going to put a border around them. It looks a little complicated, I've been told. But just it doesn't matter what shape you draw. Your shape is going to be different than my shape. Just find it and go ahead and let yourself shape. The position helps change. Oh, this is so nice with a juicy brand new pen, I gotta tell you. So I try to look for areas that I can trace out, but sometimes there are just big open areas. It's okay to just impose the shape on the paint. You don't always have to let the paint direct what you're drawing. There's really no wrong way to do this. It is a piece of paper. So it's not high stakes. Yeah, I went through a little phase there. I hope that we've smoothed out again, and that it's not still buffering. I had been making efforts to get on and do a live stream this week. Here in the United States, we've got Thanksgiving coming up, and that's a very hectic holiday. A lot of preparations for that. And if you're an older person or you're away from your family, maybe you don't have family, it can just be a time of the year that's just a little challenging to get through. So I did want to push through and get a live stream going. I'm being told in chat that we've got a lot of buffering, and I know that when I stream this time of day, sometimes it's really hard to get a good quality live stream going. But I'm going to try to stick with it so that we've got a little something to have to take a break from all of the holiday preparations. And I hope that you are able to take some time and make art or do some woodworking, do some knitting, whatever it is that you do, or whatever it is that you're doing right now. If you're like me, I kind of go through phases and switch up the work that I'm doing. And I know it's a super busy week, but if you're feeling frazzled, especially if you're feeling frazzled and just out of balance, I encourage you to look for something that you can put your hands to, where you can just sit quietly, or find a little bit of a quiet space, and especially anything that's got a repetitive motion aspect to it, like knitting, crocheting. I love adult coloring, or coloring books that are a little bit more complex than the ones that are designed for children. Those are pretty accessible. The lines are already printed on the paper, and most everybody, if you can hold a crayon or a colored pencil, you can put some kind of marks inside those lines, or mostly inside those lines. So if you don't consider yourself to be an artistic person, I do recommend coloring as something it's pretty easy to get into. I think I try to encourage people to give it a try. If you can write your name on a piece of paper, you have the physical skills to hold something in your hands and move it across the paper. So that's enough. That's enough of a skill level to be able to start. And if you're a little human, or you're in rehab and you can't quite hold it and make your mark, coloring is a great way to learn how to do that. So it's for everybody, I tell you. Oh, this paint has got so many wonderful little bits of character in there. It's really a lot of fun to work with. And the colors are just so pleasing. So I see a few of you out there. If you're interested in talking about, I'd love to know what kinds of things, kind of creative work you like to do, and if you feel like this, I don't want anybody to feel pressured, but if you feel like chatting, um, we do try to take steps to keep the chat friendly and a kind place to hang out. So it's kind of sounds silly to me now, but when I first started watching videos on YouTube, I didn't even realize that there were such a thing. I just never really understood live streaming. I always thought everything was a video, and I had no idea that as I was watching that there was a person like right then behind the camera. And so, and I wasn't much of a commenter, so I really never even opened what I would have thought was the comment box. And I was watching live videos for months before something I did one day. I kind of accidentally opened the chat window and saw a chat rolling past and saw the person making the video respond to something that somebody said in the chat, and I tell you, I about came out of my skin. It was the most surprising thing. That was one of those moments when I went, "Oh my goodness, oh, I'm old. What the kids? I don't know what the kids are doing." But eventually, I found a couple of places and started to recognize names and uh, found a few people who just had a sense of humor, or they said things that always seemed to enlighten, maybe is a good way to describe it, that what they said just added something to the discussion. And it's an interesting place to hang out in a live stream, live chat. Sometimes it's kind of fantastic, and I will say I've been other places where I just couldn't get out of there quick enough. But if you hunt around until you find a topic that interests you and maybe some people that are fun to hang out with, it's all right. So it's this fall here in the northern hemisphere where I live. I ran to the art supply store, and my maple tree was nothing but branches. It's such an interesting time of year, fall. Last time I came out the door, the tree was just covered in oranges and yellows and these beautiful flame colors. And I think maples are particularly beautiful. So I love the shapes of the branches against the sky, but it was also a little bit sad. I think the leaves are beautiful. I love a tree that's providing some shade, in the summer and in the spring. I feel like I wasn't quite ready for fall this year. Sometimes the summer can be so dry and hot, and in the Pacific Northwest where I live, we get a lot of rain in the fall, so it can feel like it's quite a relief from the dry, scorching temperatures of the summers. And we'll be to winter soon. What do you guys think? Which seasons do you like? I'm really fond of spring. I love how everything goes from the barrenness of winter, and then there are little green leaves of crocus popping up in January, and then the bright red purple and the golden color of those crocus as they bloom. And the world seems to come back to life right before your eyes in that process of spring unfolding again and again. And there's something to me that's very energizing about that. I love fall when we're in it, but I don't really look forward to it because fall feels like a lot of endings. But once it's here and the weather is nice and crisp and then things change a little bit, it's okay. But I look forward to spring. I really like how that magic sort of happens, and nature just renews itself, and there's all of those beautiful colors of the flowers and the different greens. So remember the background, how blobby and blotchy it looks. So you think, oh, it's a bit of a mess. It's beautiful colors, but and then just a few lines. They really transform it. Trying not to cover it up as I figure you guys probably want to see the drawing more than my hands. Maybe we'll just give it a turn. Thank you, Jan. Jan says she loves the colors. I was talking a little bit earlier about my palette and how I have an abundance of red paint. It's because I like the greens, the blues, the purples. Jan, thank you for spending some time. I appreciate you very much, and I hope that you'll have a little bit of time to make some art and have a little bit of mindfulness time to give yourself a break if things get hectic. And if you're here in the States, I hope you have a wonderful, warm holiday on Thursday. I think we can tell when the mindfulness exercise is operating. The exercise being to do one thing at a time. When I bye, Jan. I hope we'll see you again. Thank you so much. The one thing I'm trying to do, my intention is to do one thing, and that is to draw. Uh, it uses a different part of the brain than the speech production area. So you guys have probably noticed by now. Sometimes I get a little bit tongue-tied when I am trying to do two things at the same time, which is to draw and to talk. But I'm told you guys enjoy the narration, so. My point was, you can tell once things get quiet and I get into the, I hope that you will see that as a demonstration of the value of a mindfulness drawing. And if you're like me, do you ever get your thoughts just like your head is full of thoughts? Everything's kind of going at a fast pace. It's almost hard to keep up with all of the ideas. Or if you're maybe preparing for a holiday or just trying to get yourself together or get your family all together to get them out the door, and your mind just gets so full of thoughts that you really it can be it can be a struggle to kind of keep up with them. And if you're in an anxious state, sometimes that comes when you've really got an overabundance of different thoughts that are intruding into your head. And, oh, I need to do this. Oh, I need to do that. And yes, most of those things do need to get done. Uh, the majority of them do not need to be done in the next hour or even in the next 24 hours. So if we can get our brains to calm down, we usually have a pretty good capacity to prioritize the things that we need to do. Taking some mindfulness time can help your brain just to quietly get that stuff in order. So you can combat that anxious thinking with a regular practice to quiet your mind. My mind's not idling. It's just kind of quietly sorting things out, but without me having to feel anxiety or have an increased heart rate or tension in my muscles or uncomfortable physical sensations. The chores and tasks that I have in my household, I am going to be much more organized about it and more peaceable about doing it. So I don't think of this as of a waste of time. I find that it helps me to be more efficient, and that leads to increased productivity, to get more done more efficiently. I see we're at the hour mark. I'm very close to being finished with this. I'm going to go ahead and work this last corner. I'm chuckling because sometimes when I say I'm about to wrap up the video, that's when company comes, which I love. This beautiful color is the Daniel Smith watercolor called Moonglow. And it's just very lively. Sometimes purples, especially that you mix with watercolors, can be very drab, very gray-brown. And there's brightness and a liveliness to this. Just beautiful. I've been experimenting with various colors, trying to find a red and a blue that gave me a nice vibrant purple, and I finally just said, you know what, I'm not sure I can mix a beautiful purple, and I'm gonna buy some more paint. So I did a little looking into it, and it's not me. It's just the nature of purple. It really wasn't a paint that was in artists' paint boxes until regularly the 1800s, and it was something that was available not easily and not readily in the 1700s, but it wasn't a color that was in the palette of Renaissance painters. So there are some colors that we've really used for hundreds of years, and so those pigments in the production there, it's really evolved and it's quite sophisticated. Purple is a relatively new pigment, so I think it's a bit more of a challenge. If we had colors that 400 years ago, we were developing paints to mix between blues and yellows to get a huge range of greens. You can easily mix colors and come up with some very beautiful greens. That's not too technically challenging. But it's just not surprising that our reds and blues didn't evolve to easily mix into purples. So if you struggle with that in your painting, you're not alone. It's not you. I think in maybe 200 or 300 years, I wonder what artists are going to have at hand. Probably some really cool stuff. Okay. I think I'm going to leave these nice open spaces here. Take another look at this. I want to thank everybody for stopping by, spending a little time. I'm going to wrap up the live stream here. And I hope you will take some time and make a little art where you are. And be easy on yourself this week. Don't be easy on yourself every week, but especially weeks where you've got maybe things to look forward to and tasks. You got a feast to put together if you're hosting a Thanksgiving party, or if you're going to be with family. That's just the nature of it. But I hope that you can sort out, find good things, the things that give you joy and happiness, and we will see you on the next live stream. Bye for now.